name is Kristen, and I will be talking about starling murmurations, a beautiful flocking behavior. Starlings are part of the Starlidae family. They are vocal birds and well gifted in mimicry and can be found in various locations within the Americas, Europe, Australia, and Asia. Starlings exhibit typical bird-like behaviors. Starlings and white-crowned sparrows learn their songs by listening and observing the males in their social environments, and starlings also have extra mating partners to enhance the viability of their offspring. But in spite of these similarities, starlings are capable of exhibiting a flocking behavior that differentiates them from other bird species. This pattern is called a murmuration, and it can consist of thousands of starlings all moving in sync. You may be wondering whether this behavior serves an adaptive purpose. In recent years, scientists hypothesized that natural selection has favored this trait to protect individual starlings from predation. We learned in class that Siberian jays exhibit a behavior called mobbing, in which the adult birds use a combination of loud vocalizations and physical attacks to scare off a predator. Scientists speculate that this mobbing behavior may be present in starling flocks as well. In the graph, all three types of Siberian jays make vocalizations to protect their kin. This gives them direct fitness benefits. To a lesser degree, the birds will protect their non-descendant kin. This will give them indirect fitness benefits. Together, this behavior increases the bird's inclusive fitness. Other scientists believe that starlings have evolved this ability to confuse predators. Techniques such as the delusion effect are used by other animals such as schools of fish to minimize their chances of being selected by a predator. Being with other animals minimizes their chances of being picked off. Starlings' flocking behavior is still puzzling. These murmurations are tightly coordinated, orchestrated groups consisting of tens of thousands of individual starlings. Their movements occur too fast for any communication to take place between the birds, and the groups are too large and complex for the birds to visibly copy one another. To researchers, this level of coordination is almost paradoxical. It is difficult to understand how such a vast number of birds can achieve such cohesion and synchronization. How can tens of thousands of individual birds synchronize and coordinate their respective movements? A V formation of flying geese is also organized, but it is clear how this level of organization can be discerned through immediate sensory cues, in this case, the vortices from the wings of adjacent geese, to determine its specific position. But a starling murmuration involves much more precise coordination and synchrony on a vastly greater scale. The principles behind a murmuration are too complex to be inferred from mere cues alone. Certain systems are arranged in such a way that they are capable of self-organization if certain conditions are satisfied. The starling murmuration is an example of such a system. The authors of my primary source use computational models to understand the birds and their flocking behavior. They explain that the starling murmuration is a scale-free correlative system, and they use an analogy to explain one of its properties, which is known as low noise. Low noise means that the system can transfer information effectively with little corruption across the flock. The analogy is similar to the game Whisper Down the Lane. This game consists of many children passing a message down a line, and in most cases the original message gets lost as it is passed down from person to person. There is usually a correlation between the size of the system or the scale and how the information gets corrupted. For example, we can have a group of 100 children, but by the time the message reaches the 20th child, it's usually lost and corrupted beyond use. In this case, the range of the interaction is smaller than the whole system. But the starlings, with their sophisticated level of self-organization, are able to retain low-noise interactions even though their system is very large. This is why it is called a scale-free correlation. The murmuration exhibits a specific behavior known as self-organizing criticality. For a system to exhibit this behavior, it must exist in a general state of metastability, which means that even though the system is stable, even a trivial perturbation will produce a dramatic change in states. An example of a metastable system is a snow-covered mountaintop prior to an avalanche. While the system is normally stable, even a very small amount of energy introduced to it, like sound waves from a person yelling, can cause the system to drastically shift to a different energy state. A self-organized critical system changes through different states over time. These periodic changes in states are what produces self-organization in such systems. In the first image, Figure 1 represents a model of starling murmuration using vectors. arrows that indicate a quantity and direction, to indicate the velocity and direction of individual birds at a given moment in time. The second image represents fluctuations in the bird's velocity at the same snapshot in time. As described later in the paper, many biological systems of sufficient complexity can incorporate criticality into their functions. When a system maintains a critical state, it increases its ability to respond optimally to any perturbation to the overall system. With the right value for velocity fluctuations, the birds can respond to external stimuli in a manner that maintains the effectiveness regardless of the size of the flock. The ability to maintain effective communication regardless of the group size is indicative of a low-noise, scale-free correlated system. How starlings maintain these properties and the exact involvement of velocity fluctuations is not known at this time. Just like in the example of the avalanche, a large murmuration of starlings represents a complex system in a general state of metastability. In this case, the murmuration is perturbed by sensory input relayed by one of its units. In other words, one or several of the starlings observing an incoming predator. The conditions of a murmuration as a self-organized critical system enables the perturbation of just a small part of the overall group to set forth a cascading shift in state. Starlings are a beautiful, poignant example of a self-organized critical system, but they are just the beginning of our broadening understanding of this phenomenon's presence in natural systems. It is hypothesized that these systems may have been cultivated by evolution. A system prone to exhibit self-organizing criticality will introduce new and unexpected dynamics to natural systems. Researchers have suggested that self-organizing criticality may underlie the organizational principles behind the propagation of forest fires and certain aspects of molecular self-organization. But perhaps the most exciting implication of this research is the discovery that large neural networks across the cerebral cortex demonstrate organizational principles concordant with this phenomenon. It has even been suggested that self-organizing criticality may underlie key aspects of perception, attention, and possibly even the neural correlates of consciousness themselves.